everybody, and welcome aboard my 137th video. Now I realize that 137 is kind of a strange number to be commemorating. There is a reason behind it. I can't go into a lot of details. Let me just put it this way. It's kind of like my version of the Ring virus, where there's a cursed videotape, and when you watch this thing, something will affect you so deeply and it will stay with you, not so much for 7 days, but for the rest of your life. I'm going to hand it over to my friend Jamie to kind of explain the madness of 137.
137. All those years ago. Who would have thought 137 would be such a number? It's sending me crazy. It's sending me batty. I have 137 emails in my inbox. 137. I go to McDonald's the other day. I get given the meal number 137. 137! I get sent a message to say, can you make a video? I start making the video, and what time is it? It's 1:37 p.m. I park in Bay 137. There are 137 reasons why Dan's channel is the best. But I can't explain it. Oh!
You are tearing me apart, Lisa!
Drop that zero and get with the heel.
So being that I had to do something special for this review, I have chosen a movie that is so absolutely dear to my heart. It is something that I have loved so deeply for many years now, and it's one of those things that when I first started this channel, I always thought to myself, as soon as I get enough subscribers and enough people watching, I'm going to review Deadly Prey. Now before I get into it, I'm going to start this with a bit of an anecdote. So back in 1993, I believe it was, my girlfriend at the time was reading through the TV guide, and she saw there was this movie late on one night called Deadly Prey, and she was reading the description of it. And it said, you'll enjoy this movie if you like a scene with a guy being beaten to death with his own severed arm. So naturally she thought, hey, Dan would like this one, so she taped it for me. Anyway, to this day, I still have that original VHS cassette with all the ads from 1993 and everything. It's just such a piece of nostalgia. But I sat down to watch this thing, and I didn't really know what it was about. It was about a guy who gets kidnapped by this group of mercenaries in the jungle who are using civilians for target practice, and of course he turns out to be this one-man army. And I'm watching this thing, and back then I didn't really appreciate bad movies. I mean, all the bad movies I'd seen at that point were just bad, you know. I didn't really sort of have any love for them. But I'm watching Deadly Prey, and there was just something about this film. It's bad, don't get me wrong, but I'm watching this thing and it just captivated me. Everything from the cheesy performances, the dialogue, which is just mind-blowingly badly good, the mistakes in this thing. There are so many little errors here and there that I was transfixed by this movie, and I loved it. It's kind of hard to explain, like, why people love bad movies so much, but it was just fun to watch. And you know, the people who made this movie, I don't know, you could just tell that they just didn't care. You know, they were just having fun doing this thing, not so much worrying about who was going to see it or anything like that, but they were making a movie and they were happy to be doing it. So Deadly Prey came out in 1987. It was written and directed by David A. Pryor, and it stars his brother Ted Pryor as Mike Danton, who is the one-man army killing machine I was telling you about before. So the film starts off with a guy who's being chased through the woods by this team of mercenaries led by Lieutenant Thornton, and yeah, naturally he meets an untimely end. So Colonel Hogan, who's in charge of the whole group, you know, he wants a challenge. He wants them to get someone who isn't going to last 10 seconds out there. So the group goes off looking for random pedestrians, and they come across a house where there's a letterbox out the front just with Danton written on it. I love that so much. So Mike Danton wakes up when his alarm goes off at 7:56 in the morning. Seriously, 7:56. Who sets their alarm at 7:56? And his wife Jamie instructs him to take out the trash. So while he's taking out the trash, he gets hit over the head with a tiny little pipe thing, knocked unconscious, taken out to the jungle where he's stripped to his shorts, somehow oiled up. I don't know why they would oil this guy up, but damn, it looks awesome. And he's sent out into the jungle where he's being pursued by everyone. So naturally, you know, he's got a whole jungle at his disposal. This guy doesn't need guns and knives and stuff. He's got sticks and logs and trees. Once he starts cutting his way through the bad guys, Colonel Hogan discovers who this guy is, and it turns out that, of course, he trained him back in the day. Like, Mike Danton was his #1 student. Oh man, I can't even describe this plot with a straight face. So, of course, you know, this whole thing becomes personal. It becomes personal between Colonel Hogan and Mike Danton, and Colonel Hogan's not going to stop just because Mike Danton's cutting his men down. Hell no. He kidnaps his wife. He turns this thing against him. He brings his family into it. It's personal this time. How is Mike Danton going to get out of this situation? Yeah, look, he kills everyone. Yeah, it's as simple as that. And the movie did not hesitate in unashamedly ripping off First Blood. David and Ted Pryor, you know, they obviously watched First Blood way too many times and decided, hey, you know, we want to do this movie. And even some of the dialogue was just ripped straight out of the thing.
Okay, let's do some hunting.
Hunting? We ain't hunting him. He's hunting us.
Right! We're not hunting him. He's hunting us. Suck this. Come on.
So after my first time watching this film, I just couldn't believe what I had seen. It was amazing. I had such a good time watching it. I was laughing. I was absolutely mesmerized by the awfulness of it. And I don't know, there was just something about this film. So I started showing it to various friends of mine, and I've actually called in a whole bunch of friends of mine from around the world who, yeah, look, this is a celebration of Deadly Prey. There are so many people around the world who love this movie, and I've got some testimonies from various people. I'm going to start this off with my friend Ben, and this is a bit of a tale about the first time I showed him the movie.
Hey Dan, finally got round to doing the video for your 137th review, and you couldn't have chosen a better one for Deadly Prey. So many good memories of all the viewings of this movie, but of course the most notable one was the first time I saw it. I actually heard about it when I was bike riding home with our mutual friend Stuart Kelly, and we were both working at Birch Carlin Cinemas at the time. And Stu said, oh yeah, look, I got off the phone to Dan, and apparently he saw in a TV guide there was this movie called Deadly Prey. It was on some crazy early hour in the morning, and there was a blurb that was talking about a guy cutting off the villain's arm and beating him to death with it. And I was like, what the hell are you talking about? It sounds like a sort of a D-grade horror movie, but yeah, why not? Let's go. So we went over to Dan's. I can't remember whoever else was there that night, but there was a few of us, and we all had a few drinks first, and Dan just got down to it and put the movie on. And I remember vividly throughout the screening, Dan had the remote in his hand because he just had to keep stopping it. I mean, every few minutes, the whole room, whatever would happen, we'd just be in absolute hysterics from when the credits rolled right to the very end. And I still to this day cannot think of a viewing when my ribs hurt so much. I mean, it was to the point where I was just trying to breathe, and let alone see the movie. I just had to wait and compose myself, and then Dan would hit play, and 30 seconds, a minute later, everybody would be in absolute hysterics again. Probably my most notable moments of the movie that I loved was the "You Dead" line.
You did.
That's obviously great, and my personal favourite was the scene where he says, "Danton, Mike Danton, what? You know him? Know him? I trained him."
Danton? Mike Danton. It's gotta be.
Yeah, that was the name on the mailbox. Why? You know him?
Know him. I trained him.
And I thought that was just the funniest thing I've ever seen in the movie. Also the soldier that just sort of half loses his voice, and he appears in the tent and just goes, "Sir, they took our weapons."
Colonel, they've got my weapons.
And, the kick and everything that happened afterwards. And some of the bizarre moments too. Later on in the movie where Mike Danton's getting chased by the helicopter, boom, blows up the chopper, And the scene where the helicopter explodes, it cuts to night. And I remember at the time just going, did they forget that? Did they steal it from a documentary? Have they just completely given up trying now? It was just so out there for a movie. But, you know, like, we're going back 15 years when we saw this. I was 19 and, you know, there was no YouTube. You couldn't just Facebook someone these clips. Like, unless you knew someone that had it on VHS, there was no way of seeing this movie. And, of course, you know, word of mouth spread and now it's become quite infamous and there's a big fan following. But at the time, it was, it was totally unique. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed my perspective of it. Even to this day, it's definitely still the funniest movie ever made. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody else's responses to Dan. All the best. Cheers, guys.
And once I started showing more and more people this film, like, I don't know, I just grew to appreciate bad movies because of this film. I started seeing that these things could be a lot of fun. And one particular friend of mine, Steve, who I've mentioned him in various reviews before, he's one of my best friends. He and I kind of developed a love of bad movies from this thing. So I'm going to hand it over to Steve to tell you his thoughts on Deadly Prey.
Denton! Deadly Prey. What can I say? Deadly Prey is a low-budget, 80s generic, threadbare plot, awesome movie. And it actually played somewhat of a role in the friendship I had from the person who introduced it to me, Dan Jensen, of course. And it kind of cemented our love of the bad movie genre. And we definitely bonded over bad movies a lot ever since one of the earliest ones, which was Deadly Prey. It's got everything you could want. It's got action, poor acting, cheap sets. The film looks like it was filmed on a farm, and maybe they had a few like nature walks and like bush area. They filmed some scenes over and over again. If you like First Blood and you like B movies, then Deadly Prey's it's your movie. Believe you me, it's your movie. It's the directing's great. It's the sets. I love the sets. It's just like the same thing over, and then like the bad guy, the main bad guy, he sits at a table. So he's got these grenades just strategically placed on the table, just to let you know that if you piss him off, you can shove one down your throat or something. It's got TNA, like what. Not gratuitous, but it's there because it's the 80s and that's what you did. It reminds me a bit of American Ninja, which is a great thing because American Ninja's probably one of my favourite B movies ever. But yeah, I recommend you have to watch it at least once in your life. No, twice. Once normal, and then if you get the chance, try the Riff Tracks version as well. If you don't know what Riff Tracks is, Google that. You'll do yourself a favour. So that's Deadly Prey. On the scale of 1 to 5, a bad movie scale that is, I give it a 5 every day of the week. It's up there. It's in my top 10. It's everything you could want and more. So thank you.
And once the ball got rolling, we started showing people this film. My God, we became obsessed with it. We were, some friends of mine, we were in a band at the time. We wrote songs about Deadly Prey and Mike Danton. We used to make action figures, like Mike Danton action figures out of crappy wrestling figures. Ever since 2008, my PlayStation username has been Mike Danton because I kind of thought it might give me an edge in video games, you know, being like the big badass, but yeah, I still suck at them. But one of the first people who I showed this movie to was my good friend Rob, who, after a couple of drinks, decided to share his thoughts on it.
You know, when people talk the greatest action films of all time these days, you'll always hear the same names getting brought up. First Blood, Predator, The Final Sanction, Killzone, and of course Hard Case and Fist. But I believe the one that towers over all action films, the genre changer, is Deadly Prey. And of course, when Chuck Norris opens a can of whoop-ass, Mike Danton jumps out of that can and probably beats Chuck to death with his own severed arm. But the best scene in the film was where the guy kills the guy. Gets me every time.
And I also asked my friend Mark, who was another one who saw this movie back in the day, for his 2 cents. And here's what he had to say.
I've been asked to say a little something about the movie Deadly Prey. A movie so violent, you see, Mike Danton beat another man to death with his own arm. A movie with a script so good, it doesn't even need Dolby to make it sound awesome. So, what I have to say is, see the movie, or you dead.
And as the years rolled on, I still met people and I still showed people this movie. And here's what my friend JM had to say about it.
I have roused myself from the abyss of this infernal cold in my throat to tell you the news about Deadly Prey. Possibly the greatest action movie ever made, with some insane scenes. Do I love it? Yes. Is it the greatest? Yes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
And it turns out that some of my newer friends in life have seen this film as well. My good buddy Tony, aka Captain Cinema, who I've done some collaborative stuff here on YouTube. Being a trashy movie lover, of course this guy has seen it. So here's Tony's thoughts on Deadly Prey.
How the hell do I own a Hugh Grant 4-pack, but I don't own Deadly Prey? Have you ever wanted to watch a Rambo movie, but you're not a fan of Sylvester Stallone? Well, no problem. You'll just watch a Reb Brown movie. Not a fan of Reb Brown? Once again, not a problem. This Rambo ripoff is one of the most entertainingly, hilariously bad movie that's just so much fun to watch. What's not to love about a mullet sporting, short shorts wearing, knife wielding, oiled up specimen of homoeroticism being hunted by mercenaries? The kills? Oh my God, they're so spectacular. Have you ever seen a man get beaten to death with his own severed arm? Because that's what you're in store for. And it's absolutely beautiful.
So several years back, it was then discovered that they were going to make a sequel to Deadly Prey called The Deadliest Prey. Once again, written by David A. Pryor, starring Ted Pryor. A whole bunch of the old cast were coming back for this sequel. And that absolutely blew our minds. We just couldn't believe that we were getting a sequel to this movie that we love so much. And the movie came out, and it was, oh man, it was a perfect sequel. It was set, 20 years later or whatever it was from the original one, which was great. And yeah, it was so much fun to watch. But throughout that whole situation, I actually got to become friends with Ted Pryor, aka Mike Danton, which there's just no words to describe how much that meant to me. It all stemmed around some DVDs that he had sent over, which kept going missing in the mail, which was really frustrating. Anyway, we got talking, and lo and behold, this guy is just one of the nicest people I have ever had the pleasure to meet in my life. He's always got time for the fans. I was even lucky enough to receive these 2 signed lobby cards for Deadly and Deadliest Prey, which I have proudly got mounted on my wall, and I just absolutely cherish these things. He loves so much that people like us love this movie, and here's what he had to say.
Hi everybody, Ted Pryor here. Making a quick little hey for watching Deadly Prey. My brother and I had a blast making that movie. Yeah, I know, I got older. Shut the fuck up. Anyway, I got stuff to do today. As you can see, I am gearing up. Which is a start running right now because I got kids. Alright guys, have a blast.
So I remember back in the early 90s, this is before the internet. This is before you could download movies, before we had YouTube, before all this stuff was readily available. And I can't remember, we somehow discovered that David A. Pryor and Ted and pretty much the whole cast of Deadly Prey had made all these other movies, all these other action movies. And it was really difficult at the time trying to find these things. We had to actually go to video stores, and, if we ever found one of these movies, man, it was a big deal. And we would then, try and figure out ways that we could like buy the video or whatever. And yeah, I fortunately managed to amass like quite a collection of their movies. I got this stack of VHS tapes down in the garage, but all their movies just had the same sense of fun and just not giving a shit. And sadly, it was almost 2 years ago that David A. Pryor passed away, and that was such a tragic thing because, this guy left behind this body of work that I really hope he understood like how appreciated his films were, on a scale of movies that are so bad they were amazing. This guy was an underrated godfather of that kind of cinema. Now, if you can somehow get your hands on Deadly Prey, make sure you do. The copy I have was a copy that, it's not even an official copy. I don't even know. I think there might be an official copy released on Blu-ray. I'm not 100% sure, but this copy I've got, which even has a shot from, I think it's Cannibal Holocaust on the back. It was just ripped from a VHS copy. It's, but hey, it's fine. Deadliest Prey, on the other hand, definitely got an official release. So yeah, this is definitely well worth checking out. But overall, like I said, Deadly Prey is so much fun. It is my most favorite of all the bad movies that I've ever seen. I have such a deep love for this film. And if you want to have a great time, just invite some friends around, get beer and pizza, throw a Deadly and Deadliest Prey, make a great double. Trust me, we've done it. And on the Trashy Treasure scale, I am not going to hesitate in giving Deadly Prey a solid 10 out of 10. Now, I realize that there are a lot of Deadly Prey fans around the world, and if you have happened to come across this review and you're a Deadly Prey fan, drop me some comments down below. Let me know what you thought of it, because I'd love to hear from some more fans. And in the meantime, thank you to everybody who's been subscribing to my channel. I really appreciate it. I definitely want some more subscribers, so make sure you smash that subscribe button down below. Drop me some comments, either here or on Facebook. All the social media links are in the description below, because I like to talk about movies, and I would love to talk about movies with you. I'll catch you next time.
Click subscribe to stay up to date with all the latest movie reviews. Skynet will be taking over any day now, so what have you got to lose? Nyah.